So I'm using Mrs. Aubin's computer today because my technical difficulties. So thank you for bearing with me. Okay. So I have to look a little bit for I probably should have waited to share my screen until I didn't have to go through all this ridiculousness, huh? All right. So here we go. I'm pretending to be Mrs. Aubin, so we'll see if this works. All right. Okay, maybe. Here we go. All right, we have a new module today. We're gonna do a couple, maybe. Loading, loading, loading. This is our next unit. Today is our first lesson. So today we are going to infer. How many syllables does infer have? 2, very good. What does infer mean? To infer something. We should all know that, right? Because we've been talking about it a lot, but what does infer mean? Miss Haley.
Infer means that it means like you can tell what something means and like look at it really closely.
I like the closely part because we're going to do some close reading today. So it's basically and we can infer, it doesn't have to be text, but we're going to use text today. But in a minute, I'm going to show you something that you infer some information without any talking. But so when you infer, you use what you already know and what is around it and what's presented to be able to figure out what something is what the author or the person who's doing the thing is trying to tell you. And so I have a little video here. It may or may not work. Let's just see. Oh no. Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop it for just a second because Mrs. Oh, hocus pocus. No, 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 no. I just need to turn up the sound a little bit. Hopefully that'll work. Aha. All right. Never a dull moment when we're working on technology. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's try this again. Oh. All right. All right. So, okay. Oh my goodness. See, if I can't show you guys things, I won't do the funny things. But so what did we have to infer? Was there any talking in that commercial at all? Was there any text in that commercial besides the name of the brand? No. But could we tell what was going on?
Yeah.
What did we infer from that? What could we tell was going on, even though just from clues? Serene. He was trying to use so where was this character from, first of all? Star Wars. Who was he dressed like, Paxton? Darth Vader. So what do we know about Darth Vader? Max Fox, what do we know about him that would give us an idea of what's going on here? Okay, so Max just said Darth Vader uses the Force, and he tries to conquer the world. He's trying to conquer all those things, right? The doll, does that work? No. Is he really Darth Vader? No. But what happened at the end that made him think maybe, just maybe, he is? Josh Carr? The dad used the remote control key, right? And made the car, and so does he think he really did it? Yeah. Yes. Did we figure that all out without anybody telling us? Yeah. Without any words? Yeah. So but yet we did exactly what we said. We inferred it. We looked at we used what we already know. Max already knew about Darth Vader. We already know because we have some schema and we used our schema. And if you've never watched Star Wars before, you could still use the other clues to help you out. All right, so I'm going to give you some quotes. And I'm just going to read them out loud. And if you're at home, you can follow along with your eyes. They're a little far from some of my friends here, but if you can read that far, good job. All right, so I'm just going to read some things, and then I'm going to have you infer about what we might be studying soon. Long, long ago, in a sparkling blue mountain lake, there lived a young frog named Kicker. Kicker had smooth lime green skin. His big black eyes were rimmed in gold and bulged pleasantly. When Kicker was happy, his eyes closed into two straight solid gold lines, one on each side of his head. So you're already having a sense of what this might be about? Yeah. Yes. Some of the words might be giving you hints. Now, every year, the Frogs in Kicker's Lake held a big fly catching contest. Whoever caught the most flies won. Did that help a little bit more? Long-legged frogs hopped everywhere, leaping and turning high in the air. Oh, come on, baby, move out of the way. Opening their huge mouths and snapping them shut. It seemed like each frog jumped higher than the last. Any ideas? Starting to think about? Wee Polly woggle, wee Polly wiggle. Does that help? Does it change your mind? What do we think about those words? Do they sound like other words we might know?
Yeah.
We shaken lakes make wake and wriggle. Does that give us some ideas about what we might be talking about here? Here's another quote from something we're going to read in this particular. All of these are little quotes that we are going to be reading in various things throughout this throughout this module. Rana shared his cave with 3 pet frogs. They were named Drab, Ash, and Gray, and their skin was a dull gray-green. Drab was tiny, Ash was tinier, and little Gray was the tiniest of all. Rana was amazed. Drab, Ash, and Gray were safe, but they were not dull and green anymore. Drab was ruby red with flecks of gold. Ash was a bright sapphire blue with streaks of black. Gray looked like a shimmering rainbow. The walls of the cave had melted and coated the frogs in brilliant colors. All right, there are some ideas there. What do you think we might be talking about or doing in this module? Anybody at home have any ideas? This is up, and I don't have any visuals, so if you happen to. Anybody at home? Actually, Lila Morris, what are you thinking? What might we be doing some studying about?
Frogs.
Frogs. Anybody here agree with her with frogs? Thumbs up. Okay. Some friends at home think frogs. What, Lila, gave you that idea? Miss Lila, what gave you that idea?
Because they've been about frogs.
They sound
and there was a lot of frog things going on.
Frog things going on. I love that. All right. So can somebody tell me what one of the frog things going on that they saw in some of those quotes? Marin? Who could catch the most flies? Very good. Ben, what else made you think it was about frogs?
Because my mom just brought a book in, and it says everything you need to know about frogs.
Ah, so you had some words to help you, didn't you? Miss Astria, what else might have given you a hint?
Is it said like leaping?
Ah, very good. Leaping. I liked the bulging eyes. Does that give you kind of a picture of that animal? All right, so what kind of strategies do we use for inferring? What did we do? We read the quotes. What did your brain do? What strategy did your brain do? Did it make connections? to other things. Like Marin said, the flies. What eats flies? Frogs, right? That's the obvious one. Okay, and we noticed some themes about, it did use the word frogs in there occasionally, right? And it did say, but it did say some things that maybe weren't frog-like, like bright blue and red and yellow. Is that something we normally associate with frogs? No. So we might be learning some pretty interesting stuff to go along with this. So we are going to be reading and writing some different kinds of text. Anybody guess maybe from a little bit of what we read, what kind of text we might be writing? Yes, or reading. So that would be nonfiction, that'd be informative writing, right? Okay, so we might be doing some informative writing. What else? Did all of those stories seem like they were facts and information? Max, what do you think? Okay, so things about frogs, okay. But let's go back just for a minute to those. Did all of those quotes look like they were facts? I hear yes, but let's read that first one again. Long, long ago, in a sparkling blue mountain lake, there lived a young frog named Kicker. Does that sound like an informative writing to me? No, what does it sound like? What do we call that when somebody's writing a story like that? Sunny, do you remember? Okay, well, it could be like a fairy tale, but I'm looking for a word that includes fairy tales. Cooper, do you remember the word? It is fiction, but I'm still looking for another
I think it's fable.
word. Well, no, I'm not looking for fable either. It begins with an N. Does anybody remember? It begins with an N. Robert?
Storytale.
Well, it is a story, so it's a narrative story. And we talked about those way back in the beginning of Module 1 when we were reading Nazarene Secret School and Rain School and Waiting for the Biblio Burrow. Those were narrative stories. We're going to be writing and reading some narrative stories. We're also going to be reading some poetry. And eventually, you are right, we will do some informative writing as well. All right, so our topic is indeed frogs, yes. All right, so we have some guiding questions. These questions are going to lead us. They are in yellow for my friends in the room. They're yellow up there on the wall. They're also big in the back on the next to our crew, habits of character back there. They're also up here for my friends at home. So the first question is, what do experts do? So what are experts? What does the word expert mean, Nixon? Okay, you know a lot about what you're talking about. August, anything to add? They're really good at it. Okay, good.
They know everything.
They know everything about a topic. Okay, Ellie?
They know a lot about that subject.
They know a lot about that subject. How do you think they become experts? How do I build expertise on a topic? How do you become an expert, Charlie Carr? You have to learn about it, right? You can't just be an expert to start, right? Even if it's a different topic like tap dancing, right? You're not just born a tap dancer. You have to learn and practice and so forth. Are we going to be experts on frogs by the time we're done with this module? Yes. But what do we have to do to get there? We have to learn, we have to research. And the last question is how do frogs survive? We're going to find out what frogs need to be able to be in our world. So, habits of character. I can apply my learning to help our school, the community, and the environment. So we are going to find out that there's a lot of stuff about frogs besides just they hop around and they're green or whatever. We're going to find out a lot more about that. Have we already done some of this contributing to a better world? I apply my learning to help our school, the community, and the environment. Could it also be the world? What did we do the last couple of weeks that really show that we are contributing to a better world? What did we do? What did third grade do this week, the last couple of weeks? Mrs. Aubin and I are amazed and bewildered about it, in fact. What did we do? Come on, guys. Hat Day. We made a fundraiser, didn't we? We made a fundraiser, and we have earned over $300. So just so far, and we still have one more Hat Day ahead of us, don't we? Over $300 to help who? The kids in Uganda. Why did we do that? Why did we think about what it says our habit of character is? What did we do, Miss Abby?
We give them money so they can have more to eat.
Exactly. But how did we even find out that some kids in Uganda needed help? What did we do, Elena?
We had someone to tell us about it, and then we knew that, and then we talked about what it was.
We found out, we learned some information, and we decided that we wanted to help. Noah, what? We researched it because we were learning about overcoming challenges, right? And we learned about this. We saw a problem. We had somebody talk to us about it, and we made an effort to try to solve it. And that's what we are also going to do with our learning about frogs. All right, our learning targets. We already did the first one. Poof, check that one off your list. I can infer about frogs and support my inferences with details like catching flies. And examples from the mystery quotes, the fact that we were learning about their, different parts there. There are lots of frog stuff, as Lila put it. I can find the gist of a pourquoi tale. Ooh, is there a new word in there?
Yes.
Yes. What word might be new? What word in there might be new? Fen? This word right here, huh? And it's in French. That's why it's hard to say, because we don't even pronounce it like we would probably in English. It's called pourquoi. And I'm going to tell you what a pourquoi tale is. Today we're going to find a gist of a pourquoi tale. Well, a pourquoi tale means for why in French. But the reason it means for why is it explains why something is the way it is. So it's a story that says, like, why is the sky so far away? Why is the sky blue? How did the chipmunk end up getting its stripes? It explains how something came to be. So and it's usually about something in nature. So it could be like, why does a raccoon have the dark spot, the dark area, like the mask around his eyes, right? Or why does a bear not have a very long tail? They are made up stories. So in other words, fiction, like Cooper said, or a narrative. It's a story. And I like how when Miss Sunny was talking about, it's a fairy tale. Is it a true story? No. But it's a creative way for someone to come up with why something is the way that it is. And it is called pourquoi. So let's remember what pourquoi means. It means for why. Now, we wouldn't say it that way in English, right? But which is the important word? The why, right? Why is the sky far away? Why? And so today we are going to read a story about, what was our topic? Frogs. And it's going to be why, something to do with frogs, why they are the way they are. And the name of our story is called Why the Frog Has a Long Tongue. All right. So frogs have long tongues. Do we all agree with that? Okay. And they have a long tongue scientifically, probably for a reason, right? But wouldn't it be fun to read a story about how that came to be? That's kind of fun and creative. And that's going to be a pourquoi. So go ahead and open your workbook, my friends that are here. You're going to open it to page 2 and 3, and you're going to read along with your eyes. My friends at home, I'm going to put it underneath the dock camera, and you are going to be able to read it with me. That is if Mrs. Harrison can get everything off of her desk that she acquired. All right, so that screen's really small, my friends at home, so I am going to go ahead and escape out of here and pull up my duck. Hey, Mrs. Aubin, you know what was super great? You know what is amazing, Mrs. Aubin? Your dock camera and your computer and my dock camera decided to be friends. Isn't that amazing? I know, that was my lucky, that's why I didn't have a nervous breakdown today, because it worked. All right, I'm gonna make it full screen for my friends at home so you can read along. I think I can go ahead and turn on my lights so that my friends at home can see. All right, my friends at home, here we go. Everybody see page 2. Okay, so what was the important word in that title to tell us it's a pourquoi? Why? Why? That is an important word today because you're going to be, at the end of today's, you're going to have a little assignment. And in your assignment, we're going to use a Google form today. And it's going to ask you what the purpose of this story is. Okay? We can tell that the purpose is from the title. All right? What's the purpose of this story? To tell us why the frog has a long tongue. What's the purpose of this story? Why? Exactly. The whole purpose of the story is to tell us why a frog has a long tongue. That's the purpose of this story. Now, we're going to look for details that show why that is the purpose as we read along. So everybody, I should see everybody's eyes, everybody in my classroom, their eyeballs should be on the words on page 2. So Henrik, you need to have that closer to you, my friend. All right, my friends at home, I will try to not block it so you can read along with your eyes as well. Here we go. Long, long ago, in a sparkling blue mountain lake, there lived a young frog named Kicker. Kicker had smooth lime green skin. His big black eyes were rimmed in gold and bulged pleasantly. When Kicker was happy, his eyes closed into 2 straight, solid gold lines, one on each side of his head. Kicker was very smart and very kind and very, very tiny. In fact, he was no bigger than your thumbnail. Okay, so what were you doing in your head as I was reading? What should you have been doing, Miss Surname? Visualizing. That was the exact word I wanted. Perfect. You are visualizing what Kicker looks like, right? How small is he's super small. He's the size of your thumbnail. Look at your thumbnail. That's pretty small. Okay, what other parts of his body did they describe? And why do you think? What do you think, Miss Marin? His lime green skin. So now we have a little picture of what his whole body looks like. But what else do they tell us, Miss Haley? His big black eyes were rimmed in gold. Can you see that? Can you see that in your head? And bulged pleasantly. We're going to talk about bulged in a minute. Okay? But can you see that in your head? Think about what bulged means because we're going to talk about that later. Here we go. Now, every year, the Frogs and Kickers Lake had a big fly catching contest. Whoever caught the most flies won. Kicker loved to watch the long-legged frogs in his lake practicing for the contest. They leapt high in the air, opened their big wide mouths, and then quickly snapped them shut, trapping a delicious fly inside. Kicker was excited because this year he was finally old enough to enter. Oh, how he wanted to win that contest. Okay, so they're giving us a big idea. So they open their wide mouths and quickly snap them shut. Did you imagine that? Did you visualize that? Okay. I need to practice, thought Kicker. Just then, a small fly buzzed by. Kicker hopped into the air as high as he could. He opened his not-so-big mouth and then snapped it shut. But instead of tasting a delicious fly, Kicker heard loud croaks of laughter. Hmm. Are you imagining that in your head? Why don't you get some stilts, Tiny? Do you need a ladder? Look at those puny legs. Are you imagining who might be saying that? Yeah. The other frogs, right? Kicker dove deep under the water, embarrassed. All day long, he tried unsuccessfully to jump up and catch flies. Why? What can I do? Kicker thought. My little legs will never be able to hop as high as those bigger frogs. All day long, Kicker tried to jump up and catch flies, but he didn't catch a single one. He felt terribly sad. Your eyes should be following along on your book, my friends. His legs were sore, and his mouth was parched from snapping open and shut. He reached his long tongue into the lake for a cool drink. Just then, Kicker had an idea, a very clever idea. He slowly swam over to a quiet part of the lake, still thinking about his wonderful idea. He knew now what he had to practice, and practice he did, day after day, working his muscles until he was strong and skilled. Okay, so do we have a problem in this story? Okay, we have more than one problem in this story, don't we? But there's a part of the story that's a bigger problem than the other. And a lot of stories have more than one problem, but we have to focus on what's the main idea, what's the big problem that we are facing right now. Oh my goodness. Sorry, friends at home. You're probably getting seasick from all the moving them out the paper. Abby, what's the main problem? Kicker can't seem to jump high enough or snap hard enough to get the flies, right? He can't get them. Okay, was there a secondary problem in there? What was the secondary problem? That's not the main one, but there's a little problem in there that's also a problem. Madison? There were some other frogs being mean to him. There certainly were. Now, is that the main point of the story, though? No. So Mrs. Aubin and I really want you to understand that sometimes when we are reading stories, there's more than one problem, but always think about what is the biggest one? What's the main one? There might be some other little ones along the way, but always focus on that big problem because now we have to figure out how Kicker is going to do what? Solve it, right? How he's going to solve it. All right, here we go. Finally, the day of the contest arrived. I'm going to make that a little clearer for my friends at home. There we go. Long-legged frogs hopped everywhere, leaping and turning high in the air, opening their huge mouths and snapping them shut. It seemed like each frog jumped higher than the last. The geese kept count of how many flies each frog caught. Who would catch the most? Over in a quiet corner of the lake sat Kicker, barely moving, every muscle still. Decided not to even try, Kicker? Don't blame you. You don't stand a chance, croaked old bullfrog with a wide smirk on his face. Is that our secondary problem again? Yep. Just then, Kicker's long, strong tongue shot out of his mouth, wrapped around a startled fly, and pulled it inside. Kicker did this again and again, catching more flies than all the other frogs combined, all the while barely moving a muscle. Of course, Kicker won the contest, setting the record for the most flies caught ever. Okay, while I was reading, were you imagining? Using your visualization. Hey, Kicker, called a long-legged frog from across the lake. That looks much easier than what we're doing. Could you teach the rest of us how to do that? So Kicker, who never held a grudge, showed the frogs how to do the curling and rolling exercises he had used to make his tongue long, strong, and flexible. Soon all the frogs in the lake were relaxing, catching flies almost effortlessly, with just a flick of the tongue. In the far corner of the lake, Kicker sat proudly, his eyes shut in two solid gold lines on each side of his head, a big grin on his face. So did he actually solve both problems? Yeah. He solved the big problem, and also, are those instead of those frogs making fun of him, what did they need? They needed his help, right? So did he give them that help? Yes. Did he hold? He says he doesn't hold a grudge. Do you think that's a word that we're going to think about what the word grudge is a little bit later? Yes, for sure. All right. If you could, for me, turn to page 4 if you're my friends here. If you're at home, if you have your book already, great. Page 4 is great. Otherwise, my friends at home, you're going to have an assignment in a minute anyway on Google Forms. So you don't need to make a big deal about this. But I would love it at least if you could do the vocabulary. All right. So we're going to fill this out a little bit. We're not going to make a big deal about it, but we're going to go through some of it because one of our learning targets said we have to find the gist. So we need to be able to find the gist. What is this paragraph mostly about? And unfamiliar vocabulary, it says use a dictionary if you need to. Today, so if we were doing this independently, you would have your dictionary to be able to look up the words for sure. But since we're doing it together, we're just going to be kind of quick about it and not do that. But you know that sometimes when we have assessments, it asks you to use a dictionary and you have to be able to do that, right? All right, so let's read that first paragraph again, and you should be in your head be thinking about what this paragraph is mostly about. Long, long ago, in a sparkling blue mountain lake, there lived a young frog named Kicker. Kicker had smooth lime green skin. His big black eyes were rimmed in gold and bulged pleasantly. When Kicker was happy, his eyes closed into 2 straight solid gold lines, one on each side of his head. Kicker was very smart. Was he very smart? Did we find out he was smart? Yeah. Was he very kind? Yes, because he helps the bullies, doesn't he? And very, very tiny. In fact, he was no bigger than your thumbnail. All right, so what are we going to write in here? What is that paragraph mostly about? Haley, what do you think? Kicker. Who is, because he's our main character, right? So Kicker. Who is Kicker? What do we find out about him? He is what kind of frog? Okay, he is a very small frog. Everybody should be writing this down. Kicker is a very small frog. My friends at home, you get a easy day off if you haven't done your book yet. But we are going to add. So what word did I want to add, do you think, to vocabulary? What was that word Mrs. Harrison kept emphasizing and said, think about what that means? What word was that? Well, we were visualizing, right? But what was a word? I'll put it back up. My friends here have it on there. They could flip over back to what words in there might be our vocabulary words that we want in this paragraph. Not that we have Y underlined because the Y is the purpose, right? Y is a pourquoi tail, so it's Y. Madison? Pleasant. We could write pleasantly down. Pleasantly. I broke it up into my syllables. Pleasantly. What is our root word? And pleasantly. Well, pleasant actually is part of that word, but I think there's another even actual root word in there. No, Lee is our suffix, telling us that it's telling us how we're doing something. No, that's what they said. Pleasant is a word in there, but there's even actually another word in there that's even a smaller one. No, Cole? No. Please. Please. When something pleases you, what does it make? What is? You're right. There is no E because they added ANT, because ANT is actually a suffix. You have 2 suffixes here. Pleasant, pleasantly is actually, there's 2 suffixes on the end there. So please, what do you feel like when somebody pleases you? How do you feel, Abby? Happy and nice, right? You feel good. So pleasantly, because it has ly, makes you feel it's nicely. Pleasantly just means nicely. So when we stick that word in there, they bulged nicely. They were pleasing. They made you feel good. They weren't bulging like they were horrible, right? They didn't look scary. They were just nicely. And if you're a frog, is that a quality that you like? Maybe. Could be have bulgy eyes. Maybe that's a nice quality for a frog. Speaking of bulged, what does, I was waiting for someone, thank you so much. Bulge, what does bulge mean? Well, the ed at the end is our suffix, right? But bulge, what does bulge mean? What is, my friends at home, anybody have a definition for bulge? Let me see my friends at home. Anybody have an idea for bulged? Logan, no, all right, come on, my friends at home. Bulged, what do you think? Birthday girl, any ideas? No, all right, Isabella. So you're showing me with your hands, but I got to write it down. So I see that you got the, thank you for the visual, Miss Isabel. Lila, what do you think?
I think it means bother you.
Say again.
Bother you.
Okay, for some reason I'm having a hard time hearing you today. So, so bulge means to pop out from the surface. And we were also, I'm looking at the time because I want to make sure you have enough time to do your Google form today. Rimmed, they wanted me to do rimmed. What does a rim of something mean? The rimmed, if it was his eye was rimmed in gold. Lyric, what does that mean? The edge, very good. The outside edge, right? If you are on the rim of something, you're on the outside edge. If you're on the rim of the canyon, right? You're right on the edge. All right. So, alrighty. So I'm going to read that second paragraph, and we're going to figure out what this. I'm going to move this up. Sorry, friends. So here we go. All right. Now every year, the frogs in Kicker's Lake held a big fly catching contest. Whoever caught the most flies won. Kicker loved to watch the long-legged frogs in his lake practicing for the contest. They leapt high in the air, opened their big wide mouths, and then quickly snapped them shut, trapping a delicious fly inside. Kicker was excited because this year he was finally old enough to enter. Oh, how he wanted to win that contest. All right, what is our gist for that paragraph? What is the main idea of that paragraph? Abby. Well, okay, I can't just write the contest, though. It's going to be a sentence. So what about the contest? Well, is he practicing in that? It's not about practicing. It doesn't say about practicing yet. Watching? Elena?
It's about how every year that there's a fly catching contest.
So Kicker, what does Kicker want?
He wants to join it.
He wants to join or wants to compete in the contest. Remember, we're just taking that whole paragraph and doing what? Shrinking it into one sentence. All right. So, do we all know what delicious is?
It's something that's very good.
Something's very tasty, right? So do we need to write delicious down? Nah. How about snapped? They use that word over and over again. What does snapped mean? Snapped. Yes, they are supposed to be right. So I just told them to write down the vocabulary. I didn't tell them they had to write down the gist, but I did ask them to write down the vocabulary. And oh, gotcha. So they are supposed to be, yep, guys, you're supposed to be writing down your vocabulary for me. I did ask for that. August. Well, you can't use snap as part of the definition. So what's it doing?
It closes.
Closing how? Closes. Snap. You're doing it. Time-wise, what is it? Quickly, right? Closes quickly, right? Snapped. Close quickly. How about when you trap something? What do?
You shut it.
So I like how you're all giving me really good visuals, which is good. But can I write? How do I write down that?
You trap it.
So when you trap something, you do what?
You keep it from getting out.
You keep it from getting out. You catch it and you keep it, right? And when you trap something, you catch it and keep it. All right. Next paragraph. This one starts at I need to practice and ends on a cool drink. Here we go, which is way down here. I need to practice, thought Kicker. Just then a small fly buzzed by. Kicker hopped into the air as high as he could. He opened his not so big mouth and then snapped it shut. But instead of tasting a delicious fly, Kicker heard loud croaks of laughter. Why don't you get some stilts, Tiny? Do you need a ladder? Look at those puny legs. Kicker dove deep under the water, embarrassed. All day long, he tried unsuccessfully to jump up and catch flies. What can I do? Kicker thought, my little legs will never be able to hop as high as those bigger frogs. All day long, he tried to jump up and catch flies, but he couldn't catch a single one. He felt terribly sad. His legs were sore and his mouth was parched. From snapping open and shut, he reached his long tongue into the lake for a cool drink. What is happening? How can we get all that into one just sentence, writer? Because why? They were, well, is it because he's little? Because he can't catch flies, right? He's making fun of him not catching flies. There you go. And is he sad? What does the word puny mean? What's puny? What does that mean, Cole? Tiny. And it could mean weak. You're right. Because is it a nice term? No. When you say puny, is that something how you want? That doesn't have a very nice connotation, does it? So no. Tiny. So, but puny means tiny or weak, right? That's not very nice. How about parched? What does parched mean? Uh-oh. What is parched? Sometimes I know that Miss Haley wants me to go get her a water bottle soon because I haven't forgotten. I just haven't gotten a chance because she was parched. So Haley, what's parched? No. What is thirsty? Yes. Thirsty. Needing water. Can a flower, a parched also can be dry, like a plant can be parched, and or the ground can be parched. Just means dry, thirsty or dry. All right. I know I'm moving pretty quick. Oh, I am feeling quack. If you aren't getting all this done, it's totally fine. We're going to keep going though. Just then, Kicker had an idea. A very clever idea. He slowly swam over to a quiet part of the lake, still thinking about his wonderful idea. He knew now that he had to practice, and he practiced. He did day after day, working his muscles until he was strong and skilled. Finally, the day of the contest arrived. Long-legged frogs hopped everywhere, leaping and turning high in the air, opening their huge mouths and snapping them shut. It seemed like each frog had jumped higher than the last, and the geese kept count of how many flies each frog caught. Who would catch the most? What's that paragraph, or those paragraphs mostly about? What do you think? Max Diesberg? So everyone practiced up until the day of the contest, right? Kicker and the other frogs, right? Practiced up until the day of the contest. All right. Embarrassed. What does embarrassed mean? August. He was so embarrassed. Yes. Another word we can say is self-conscious. So you start thinking about everybody is making fun of you and it makes you super sad, right? Yeah, for sure. All right. And compete means to do what? Compete, be in a contest, right? To act in a contest. All right. Over at the quiet corner. Here we go. Find my spot. All right, over in a quiet corner of the lake sat Kicker, barely moving, every muscle still. Decided not to even try, Kicker? Don't blame you. You don't stand a chance, croaked old Bullfrog with a wide smirk on his face. Just then, Kicker's long, strong tongue shot out of his mouth, wrapped around a startled fly, and pulled it straight inside. Kicker did this again and again, catching more flies than all the other frogs combined, all while barely moving a muscle. Of course, Kicker won the contest, setting the record for the most flies caught ever. That was an easy one. What do you think? One sentence. What can we do for a gist? I should see lots of hands up. What can we say? What was the gist, Finn? Yeah, he beat so that means he wins the contest, right? He wins the contest with, yes, you're right, the most record, the highest record, right? What does the word smirk mean? Smirk. Now that one, so it says in the sentence, I'm going to go back to my text. I'm going to reread that. See if we can infer what that means. Remember the inferring we did earlier? It said, I don't blame you. Don't stand a chance, croaked old Bullfrog with a wide smirk on his face. So it's something going on in his face, right? Well, smirk. What do you think a smirk is, Ellie? That, you know what? I like that evil smile. Is it not necessarily evil, but is it unkind? Yeah. Is it a nice smile? Is it meant to make someone feel good? No. I don't know that it's necessarily an evil smile, but I kind of like that idea. It's unkind for sure. All right, last part. So here we go. Hey, Kicker, called the long-legged frog from across the lake. That looks so much easier than what we're doing. Could you teach the rest of us to do that? So Kicker, who had never held a grudge, showed the other frogs how to do the curling and rolling exercise he had used to make his tongue long, strong, and flexible. Soon all the frogs in the lake were relaxing, catching frogs almost effortlessly. With just a flick of the tongue catching flies, sorry. This is what happens when Mrs. Harrison is thinking about what the next thing is instead of what she's reading. In the far corner of the lake, Kicker sat proudly, his eyes shut in 2 gold lines on each side of his head, a big grin on his face. What would we write down for our last gist? What do you think, Miss Elena? Okay, Kicker is, how's he feeling?
He's feeling happy.
And how do we know he's happy?
Because he had a grin.
Because he has a grin, and what about his eyes?
It was.
He has those 2 thin gold lines, right? At the beginning, it told us that makes it, so he's happy, and he helped the other frogs. All right. Grin on his face. He's a happy frog. So, as we say, did he live happily ever after? Yeah. What is a grudge? We talked about this earlier. What's a grudge? He doesn't hold a grudge. What do you think grudge means?
It means
Ooh.
to hold something bad against them.
Ah, to not
Forgive them.
forgive. There you go. That is exactly. Good job. I believe that was Ethan's voice. Not forgive. So a grudge is to not forgive, right? But he doesn't hold a grudge, so he forgives them, doesn't he? All right, my friends. So let's see what we had to do. We had to figure out what this module is about. Did we do that? Check. We had to infer some things. Did we do that? We did. Check. Did we come up with the gist that we needed for the different parts of the story? Check. So there's one last thing that I need you to do for us to finish today. And the idea is, so all my friends here are going to need to make sure that they take out your computer. My friends at home, you are going to go to our assignment today, and you're going to fill out our Google form. So, yes. Oh, thank you. Uh-oh. All right. All right. So my friends my friends here are going to open their computer, log in, go to Google Classroom. So starting after Thanksgiving, we're going to have to do this every day, right? We're going to have to make sure we fill out our assignments. So I shouldn't hear any voices right now. Mrs. Aubin, is Max Fox, is his computer ready and working? We'll find out. All right, so you're going to go up to your waffle. Gotcha. Oh, why am I hearing voices? So here we're doing this. This is an assignment. You need to open up your computer. You're going to go to, if you don't remember, you're going to go to your Google Classroom. That looks like the little chalkboard. You're going to get you're going to look in which, and everybody should have 3rd grade classroom, or they should, I've got an extra here too, if you'd rather. Yep. Google Classroom, you guys also have math, or some of you have different math, some of you have different art, music, PE. So then you're going to go to classwork. And this week is the 16th through the 20th. So you got to scroll down. Now, Mrs. Aubin's and mine look different because we have things for the future already. But you find where it says weekend, oh my goodness, week of November 16th through the 20th. And you probably don't have nearly as many things underneath it because this should have been this week's, you're going to come in here, you're going to click on it. You're going to see 2 things. You're going to see, here's our lesson. So this is everything I just showed you, all those slides are under here. So if you, my friends here, if you miss somehow our live Zoom lesson and miss me talking about it, you're going to go here and just open the lesson and work your way through it, as well as there'll be a video that we'll put up as well. Robert, you can go to it anytime, right? And did you have to sometimes do that to remember what the instructions were sometimes? No, you were really always paying attention. Good job. So everybody click on Google Forms. And here's our Google form for today. So it makes one for you. So when you go in, after you fill it out and submit it today, it will send me the answers, your answers, and I will be able to grade them. So it's very important that the first thing you do, so here's why the frog has a long tongue. Here's my cute little frog. What is your name? You must type your name. Otherwise, I don't know whose assignment it is. So everybody right now, type your name. Then type your name. First question. You already did? Okay. Okay. Especially if your name is Max or Josh or somebody else who has a name there's more than one person in here. Otherwise, just put in your first name. All right? Otherwise, put Miss Lila, you can put Bird, and then that'd be fine. It's Google form. All right, go ahead, and so then it says, what is the name of the main character? So no, we're not going over the answers right now, but type in, I'm going to help you out with this one a little bit. What is the name of the main character? Type it in. Do you need to look back at your work, at the story? That's a good thing. So Elena's not sure how to spell it, so she's going to go back and look in the text to make sure she's spelling it correctly. Should the name of the character be misspelled? No, because you can look in the text, right? Go back to the text. It's on pages 2 and 3 Open it up. Look, if you have the text in front of you, except for my friends at home. My friends at home, I will put it here so that you can, because nobody else here needs to see. Let me go ahead and, all right, you're typing in your answer. My friends at home, you're gonna need this. It's also on the assignment today. All right, my friends at home, you're good at this. I don't need to give you any extra explanation. So I just need you to finish your Google form. Make sure you hit submit at the bottom. And then we will see you at 12:45, either in Mrs. Aubin's Zoom or Mrs. Harrison's Zoom, depending on where you need to be. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Everybody know what they need to do? Gonna go fill out your Google form, submit it, and I'll see you guys later. All right? All right, my friends, I'll see you.